10,000 years ago, Alexander the Great, the legendary conqueror, sat in council with a sage known across the lands for his wisdom. In the stillness of that moment, the sage leaned forward and shared a secret, a truth so profound it would shake Alexander to his very core. The sage spoke. "There are more worlds than this," he said. "Their number is near infinite, stretching across the cosmos, beyond the reach of any man's senses." Alexander, a man who had built an empire vast enough to reach from the rich Mediterranean to the farthest reaches of Asia, looked out over his domains, a kingdom that held the heart of civilization, stretching to its farthest borders. And yet, his eyes filled with tears. The sage saw his sorrow and asked gently, "Great Alexander, why do you weep? You possess every glory that a mortal has ever known." Alexander replied, his voice heavy with the weight of realization, "Is it not worthy of despair that there are an infinite number of worlds to conquer, and I cannot become the master of even one?" In the 31st century, amidst all its advances and perfections, there was a boy, a young man with the world at his feet. But his heart and mind told him there was something more. "My name is Nathaniel Richards. I was born in the 31st century. By the time I turned 18, I had conquered nothing. My world was a utopia, a place built on pleasure and endless entertainment. Some called it post-scarcity. I called it boring. A paradise, perhaps, but one where 10-year-olds could master robotics with ease, where even the worst injuries could be mended in weeks, like the scars on Nathaniel's throat, left by bullies, but healed as if nothing had happened. But in this world, where every need was met, it felt as if time itself had come to a standstill, the end of history. Days blurred together, a lifeless parade of meaningless moments, counting down to nothing. And in that quiet, Nathaniel began to see his world for what it truly was. Not a utopia, but a cage. And like anyone wise enough to see the locks that hold their prison shut, I devised an escape. My future held no promise, so I turned my gaze to the past. In the shadows of history, I knew I'd find the answers that my world could never give. I knew that in the echoes of the ancients lay wisdom to answer my deepest questions. Those who battled through the brutal past had struggled with dilemmas that I, in my comfortable world, could barely comprehend. For nearly 2 years, I searched, my mind consumed by this one purpose. I forged a leisure pass. I rerouted the security watch from the Eurasian industry fields. And moving by shadow, I slipped into a land once ruled by fists of iron and guarded by magic beyond reason. I sought answers from the past, and I was at least half right. Nathaniel descended, landing softly amidst the echoes of a forgotten age. Exact coordinates. The air itself was thick with history, the grandeur of past hopes, worn down by time, like stones eroded in the desert winds. I'd never seen anything old with my own eyes before. It was beautiful, and as I was about to learn, I was a fool. Before him, a towering statue began to move. Awakened, it stepped forward with an aura of power and dread. And this was no ordinary guardian. This was Dr. Doom. What in the stop, I command you. Your master is long dead, and I am his only. But then again, Nathaniel thought, so was he. Suddenly, from the crackling portal, a figure emerged, his voice cutting through the air like a blade. "Down, child," the man shouted. "Doom may be an imbecile, but good engineering is eternal. To the 20th century with you, robot," he declared as he aimed and fired. "Tell your creator who disposed of you." Nathaniel, still in shock, looked up at the stranger. Who are you?" he stammered. The mysterious man's voice is calm, yet filled with hidden knowledge. "One who knows infinitely more than you can imagine, Nathaniel." Nathaniel's confusion grows. He glances around, then back at the stranger. That's not an answer," he shot back. "How the hell do you know my name?" The man's expression remains indifferent, almost bored. "Another petty, obvious question," the man replied dismissively. "I'd hoped for better." Nathaniel's voice, tentative but determined. "I'm sorry. Better? I'm Nathaniel Richards," he declared, "the liberator of the Library of Victor Von Doom. This is the secret history of the world, and I am its heir. And you want better?" The mysterious figure remains unmoved, his voice dripping with skepticism. "The reverie in your voice is embarrassing. There's no easier place to lie than in the pages of a book." The figure gestures dismissively at Nathaniel. "You'll learn to trust only first-hand sources. Though I suppose, compared to the bland existence you've known, this might look like a feast. So tell me, Nathaniel, would you rather read history or make it?" Nathaniel's eyes light up, his voice growing fierce and certain. "Are you kidding me? That's all I want. This world is so thin, it's like there's nothing here. And I want everything." A faint, approving smile forms on the stranger's face. "Good. You're ready. Now, ask your question again." A pause, with Nathaniel looking straight at him, his voice steady. "Who are you?" The man removed his armor's headpiece, revealing a face marked by ages and untold stories. His voice echoed with the weight of centuries. The mysterious figure speaks, voice steady, almost haunting. The question with 10,000 answers. The Conqueror, the Eternal. The God Pharaoh, Ramatut. The Timekeeper, Immortus. I have been them all, and will be again. But there's only one answer that has ever truly mattered. In the end, I am Kang. And at the beginning, I was you. Nathaniel, his eyes wide with shock and disbelief. Kang's voice grew softer, but his words were filled with unimaginable promise. Through this doorway is an infinite number of times and worlds, eras that sing my name in praise, planets that worship me. But to earn those, I have known loss, defeat, frustration. I would save you that trauma, that time. Kang reaches out a hand toward Nathaniel, his voice steady and enticing. Join me and own the mysteries of the cosmos. Join me and become. A beat of silence as Kang moves forward, guiding Nathaniel toward the portal, his voice now quieter, almost reflective. If I knew then what Kang would someday know, would I still take this step? I think the answer must be yes. A man dying of thirst must always take the gift of water. Nathaniel looks at Kang, conflicted yet resolved, finally nodding. "All right, let's go. Even if it is fouled." They emerged from the portal into a world untouched by human hands. Kang looked around, his voice calm but foreboding. "Welcome to the end of the world, my boy." Nathaniel stares around him, eyes wide with disbelief as he tries to process their surroundings. What is this place? Only a year to grow from me to you? There's no way that's enough time. Kang's voice turns cold and unyielding as he watches the prehistoric horizon. In exactly 1 year, this will be the impact point for the asteroid that causes the Cretaceous-Paleogene extinction. Consider it a deadline. That is the first lesson, boy. Time means nothing to Kang. The screen fades from black to a montage of Nathaniel's intense training. Music swells, shifting between ominous and triumphant as Kang imparts his lessons on the young man. Many of my memories are fogged by the ways of time, centuries of conflicting timelines, playing tricks in my head. But I remember every one of those first days with perfect clarity. Nathaniel lifting weights, studying languages, and battling harsh environments. His body and mind transforming under Kang's strict guidance. My lessons began with survival, strengthening my body and mind, and where I could not strengthen it myself, Kang did so for me. Kang injects a small chip into Nathaniel's neck, his face contorted in pain as knowledge floods into his mind. The camera zooms in on Nathaniel's face as the chip takes effect. "You will command all. Brave the pain." Kang, dressed as a pharaoh, stands before Nathaniel, his voice authoritative. No power is absolute but that which is attained godhood. Nathaniel in regal attire, absorbing the weight of Kang's words as the camera lingers on his conflicted expression. The scene shifts rapidly, showcasing Nathaniel's growing power and knowledge, and dressing as a god will not make it so, I thought. But Kang, he laid bare the rules of time, which lit my mind ablaze. Kang leads Nathaniel into a rustic cottage, the air thick with anticipation as they speak. What I'm saying is, if you go back to that moment, you would create a paradox, see? The two versions of yourself would create a chronometric inversion field that would Kang, sharply interrupting, no, wrong. Paradox is merely another weapon in the arsenal of Kang. He is me, and you, always. Nathaniel standing alone in the wilderness, now more focused and hardened, pondering Kang's words, shelter in the wilderness. A worthy conquest. Montage of brutal lessons, Nathaniel shooting, training with weapons, fighting for survival. The camera shows the cold discipline in Kang's eyes, the growing fire in Nathaniel's gaze. I was proud of what we could build together. I was proud when I overcame them. His lessons were brutal. He taught me to shoot. He taught me to kill. He taught me that a plan, no matter how meticulous, only serves to make you weak. Kang leads him to a chaotic battlefield. To rely on a specific order of events is to invite disaster. Kang must thrive on disorder. The scene pulls back, showing the chaos of the battle around them. But Nathaniel's eyes flicker with doubt as Kang turns to him with a cold gaze. To our future, Nathaniel. To the empires you will crush. To the infinite worlds left to conquer. Leave Kang to his thoughts. There are things much grander than you. Nathaniel's voice echoes in the dark as the weight of his journey becomes clear. I was forged. But as I was forged, I glimpsed the flaws in the iron that made my teacher. Once, I got so drunk I could barely stand. But Kang, he took me to a far-off world, a world that would haunt my mind forever. Kang stands in the shadows, his face unreadable. A woman, lifeless in his arms, is slowly lowered to the ground. Kang's eyes glisten, but he remains silent. He cried in the shadows as a woman died. Then he said one word, a name that would echo in my mind for all time. Ravana. Kang's face, his grief palpable, but it quickly hardens as his emotion shifts into anger and determination, low and cold. Is that how it will be, boy? You wish to avoid me. I show you my ultimate failure, and now you think I'm weak. Nathaniel looks around, confused, but tries to offer some comfort, his voice shaking. No, not at all. I just think maybe. In an instant, Kang grabs Nathaniel by the shirt, lifting him off the ground. His eyes burn with intensity, anger, and a coldness that cuts deeper than any weapon. Kang shouting, do not think, only listen. There is only one lesson you must truly learn. Never love. In all of time and space, it is the only way in which you will be conquered. Nathaniel gasps in pain as Kang's grip tightens. The screen flickers, transitioning between dark, twisted flashes of Kang's memories, of Ravana, of past battles, of heartbreak. Nathaniel, screaming in pain. Ah! Nathaniel struggles and finally breaks free, stumbling backward in fear. His breath is ragged as he looks at Kang, shaking from the intensity of the moment. I ran from him, terrified, and I made him promise. And terrified of Kang, I did. I swore an oath I'd regret. I forswore my heart, though it was a promise quickly broken. And though I promised never to love, love came anyway. It always does. Nathaniel runs through the underbrush, panic in his eyes as the roar of a massive dinosaur echoes through the trees. The camera cuts to a terrifying sight, a gigantic dinosaur chasing down terrified people. Nathaniel, breathless, I ran into the forest, hearing the roar of the beast behind me. Rah! It was chasing the people. I had no choice but to face it. Nathaniel stumbles, catching his breath. He stands tall, trying to calm himself, As the camera zooms in on his face, his hands tremble slightly, but his voice hardens as he speaks to himself. All right, deep breath. Remember, Nate, Kang fears nothing. Nathaniel gripping a gun tightly in his hands. His eyes lock on the massive dinosaur charging toward him. He takes a deep breath, raises the weapon, and shoots with precision. The beast roars in pain, its roar echoing through the jungle as it stumbles. I took the gun and shot the dinosaur. Growl! The ground shaking under its weight. Nathaniel stands over the fallen creature, breathing heavily, his expression one of grim satisfaction. I'd love to tell you I hauled the prize of my glorious victory back to camp, where I feasted on dinosaur steak and sharpened its teeth into knives. His gaze shifts and the excitement drains from his face, as if the moment of triumph has lost its meaning. But the truth is, by the time the beast collapsed, I had forgotten it was there. Suddenly, a soft rustling sound breaks the silence. A woman leaps effortlessly into view, landing gracefully on a nearby tree branch. She is the only figure in the dense forest. And then she appeared. A woman, leaping from the shadows of the trees. There was only her. The air felt charged, as though the entire world had paused to bear witness. Nathaniel's chest rises and falls rapidly. The scene zooms in on his face, eyes wide with disbelief, his breath caught in his throat. My breath, which had come so surely and effortlessly every minute of my life prior, abandoned me. His trembling hands, his body stiffening as he struggles to breathe. In contrast, the woman sits calmly on the tree, her presence serene and commanding, as did insecurity and fear. A soft, almost ethereal glow surrounds the woman, as if she were the center of Nathaniel's world in that moment. The forest seems to quiet, all sounds fading into the background. Nathaniel's posture softens and his mind clears. What remained was sure supplication, joyous in its certainty. To this moment in time, Nathaniel standing in front of the woman, an awkward yet earnest smile on his face as he tries to break the tension. The forest around them remains still and silent, only their voices breaking the quiet. Nathaniel, trying to ease the moment. Hello, my name is Nathaniel. I am no threat to you. I swear I swear. Do you understand me? Her eyes locked on Nathaniel as she tilts her head slightly, contemplating his words. A woman, calm and enigmatic, I understand. Nathaniel calls out to Adi, and Adi meets Nathaniel. Nathaniel's brow furrows in confusion, a brief flash of his past memories and emotions as he processes her response. In the antiseptic world in which I was raised, skin rarely touched skin. And after my injury, never, not in affection or otherwise. I wished in that moment for the feeling to stay forever. Such is the curse of time. The most profound of present moments rot into foolishness as they become the past. Nathaniel and the mysterious woman running through a vast, untouched valley. The landscape is wild and untamed, a stark contrast to the dystopian world they came from. As they run, the valley gradually reveals itself to them, a deep, beautiful wound in the earth, untouched by human greed. We ran together for what felt like hours, until the valley revealed itself to us, another great wound in the earth. But the very opposite of Doomstat. This place was mad too early to be touched by the folly of man, by his cruelty, by his ego. It was a refutation built of joy. I should have been fearful. Perhaps I was a sacrifice or a prisoner, a skin to decorate their halls, an outsider, judged for the darkness that made a core in his heart. They could see it, who I was, what I would become. I've no doubt of that now. Adi, who led Nathaniel to the elder, speaks with a calm but commanding voice, guiding him through this moment of destiny. ADI, commanding, kneel, receive the gift. Nathaniel hesitates for a moment, his mind swirling with uncertainty, before finally kneeling before the elder. And then the elder came nearby and said to me, "Sung by the hymn of time are you, the conqueror and conquered. Yours is a path forged through the darkness forest, the trail burned in glory and pain." The elder marks Nathaniel with a symbol of the beast he slayed, his hand lingering over Nathaniel's shoulder like a weight, a moment of transformation. Nathaniel accepting his fate. "I mark you for the beast you slew. I mark you for the life you saved." Nathaniel continues to tell the stories. It was in the afterglow of their nightly celebration, with the sense of unknown pleasure, dancing with the ashes of the bonfire in the night, that Audie told me the stories of her people, of the star that fell from the endless sea above that made them, and the foretold star that would fall one day to unmake them. I takes how her people could go on if they knew with such certainty that they'd one day be wiped clean from the slate of history. "Because there is another way, Nathaniel," she whispered to me by fight, "because that is the beauty of living. The sea is dark and cold, and none can survive in it forever. None ever have, and none ever will. But for a moment, one shining moment, we find purchase and stand against the dark. This is where we live in the space between the stars." Nathaniel, excited and energized, rushing back into the grand, dimly lit halls of Kang's castle. "Sir, you won't believe what I found. You were wrong. There are people here. It should be impossible, but there are, and they're incredible. They have culture and music, and the most fascinating legend I've ever heard. And wait until you see the dancing." Nathaniel pauses, noticing the eerie stillness of Kang's presence. His excitement falters as he looks around for a response. "Sir, are you awake?" Suddenly, Kang's voice breaks the silence, cold and commanding, as if he's been listening all along. The space between the stars. "It is you who are not awake, boy." On Kang's face, half lit by the dim glow of the room, his expression unreadable. His words pierce the air like ice. "You dream the naive dreams of heroes, the romance of Alexander, the purity of Steve Rogers. You will unlearn this sentimentality." Nathaniel's excitement turns to confusion and dismay, but he stands firm, awaiting Kang's next command. Kang, commanding, "Never disappear from my sight again. You will do as you are ordered. You will learn the lesson I teach and never disregard them. And above all else, you will wipe that pathetic paint off your face." Kang, stern and commanding. "Kang doesn't make requests, boy. You are here by my design and shall behave by my design. Your future lies in the balance. Heed me, or be doomed to a life of failure, of rot and toil and insignificance." Nathaniel, unable to contain his frustration any longer, steps forward, his voice shaking with anger and conviction. Nathaniel, shouting in defiance, "That's just it. You're the one who's failed. You talk endlessly about conquest and glory, but you're just a drunk who makes me memorize your defeats. How doom tricked you at the fall of Manhattan. How the four laid you low in the sands of Egypt." Kang's eyes flash with fury, but there's a twisted sense of satisfaction beneath his rage. He leans forward, his voice booming with authority. Kang, a challenge in his tone. "Yes, so you will not repeat my failures." Nathaniel's fury reaches its peak, and he shouts back, his words sharp with raw emotion. Nathaniel, defiantly, "My life is my own, Kang. It's out there, living on without me, and the people of that tribe, we can save them from the coming cataclysm. If time means nothing to us, then why can't I use it to save the first thing in this blasted world that I..." Kang interrupts with a thunderous shout, his words cutting through the air with terrifying finality. Kang commanding, "Say it." Nathaniel, with quiet but intense hope, "It's love." The scene is set atop a jagged cliff overlooking the peaceful tribe's village below. Kang, seething with rage, stands tall, his fists still clenched after delivering a brutal punch to Nathaniel's face. Nathaniel, bloodied but unyielding, struggles to rise to his feet. His eyes are filled with determination as he gazes at Kang. Nathaniel, defiant but pained, "I will save them." Kang, fury surging through him, grabs Nathaniel by the collar and pulls him toward the edge of the cliff, his voice a low growl of pure anger. Kang snarling, "No, boy, you did not. No." With a sickening finality, Kang releases Nathaniel and turns his wrath on the unsuspecting tribe below. In a series of vicious moments, Kang slaughters them one by one, their screams filling the air as their homes are set ablaze. The destruction is swift and merciless. It was then that I understood. Though I had crossed the fabric of space and time, I had never left my cage at all. Nathaniel, through tears, it was then that I saw that the cage was Kang. After that moment, and so for the final months of the Cretaceous period, I pretended to study that which Kang instructed, while secretly I studied the lock, how the mention of Ravana might drive my jailer to drink, how a few herbs might intoxicate a glass of wine, how the armor that had opened the way might be mine to command. I'd rarely been as tempted as I was in that moment to take the inevitable into my own hands, but his words echoed in my ear. Time would conquer all my enemies, if only I could master it. I waited until the perfect time, the final night before the final day. And as Kang instructed, I used everything I had been taught. I brought in the waist and hemmed the shoulders to fit my smaller frame. I hot-wired the controls to work at my command. And for the first time, just as Khan had sworn, I became, he is me and you. And I felt what he had felt so many times before. Now, for the first time, the cold rush of moments under my heel, the warm scream of years at my whim, and as a chorus of apex predators roared their final lament, the light of the portal doorway sight and the dinosaur run roared, I conquered, and then, in turn, was I conquered. Kang's damnable suit game way, overtaxed and burned out, like its now long-dead creator. And now I was the star, falling from the sky, a single jump through time, as far forward as I could manage, as far from Kang as I could run. PFFT, PFFT. Based on the heat, I worried that I'd landed in a lifeless time, or gone too far to the heat death of the universe. But, of course, I had gone somewhere far worse. I had run from Kang's cage and arrived in Ramatut's empire.